When I first started dreaming and then planning of moving to Mexico, and I'd watch YouTube channels, and there was just always one question I had on my mind, and that was, what does it really cost to live the life I'm seeing on screen? So today I'm giving you a video that explains all my costs here in the mountains of Mexico, including food, things like going out, utilities, and even the cost of this house in a ballpark sort of fashion. And some might surprise you. When I was a struggling and burnout and exhausted nurse, and I made the decision to start over at age 57, coming to Mexico, I really didn't know if this life was something I could achieve. I just didn't know how much it cost. So if you've been dreaming and scheming, if you've been wondering if you could have a life here in Mexico, this is for you. And the first thing I needed to know back then, and maybe the first thing you need to know, is living in a place like this even within your reach? So let's talk about the cost of this home and this land with some context. I'm not comfortable giving the exact price I paid for this house to be forever on the internet, but I can give you a ballpark. And properties in this area, like mine with a little extra land, can go from anywhere from between $200,000 and up to $500,000 and even more if it's a fancy place with a lot of acreage. Obviously, things like condition, land size, and how much work you're willing to do can make a difference in the price. And people love real examples, and I do too. So before I show you examples, though, let me be really clear. The market changes constantly, and the listings I show you today will almost certainly be gone by the time you decide to move. So please don't screenshot these and think, this is what I'll pay. These are examples. I haven't visited these houses in person. These are just current listings in the area around Pátzcuaro in Michoacán. And since most of my viewers are in the US, I'm talking about US dollars here. The actual price is in the equivalent in Mexican pesos. Here's example 1, a small fixer-upper. This one looks like it has some kind of land around it, a cabin-style 3-bedroom listed at about 80,000 US dollars. No view of the kitchen, which makes me wonder why. Example number 2, just out of town and brand new. I apologize if that text on the screen is hard to read, but it just says what I just said. You can pause the video to slow down the pictures if you like. This one is brand new in a subdivision, I think about 15 minutes from town. Right now it's listed at about 116,000 USD. Example 3. Here is a move-in ready home. This is a move-in ready 3-bedroom closer to the center of town. You're paying here for location, convenience, and the fact that it's brand new. It looks really nice. This one is listed at about 236,000 USD. Example number 4 is a home with some land. This one is more similar to the type of property I have, a rural home with a bit of land. In fact, it says it has over 3.5 acres. It's not perfect, but it's livable, and it's listed at about 361,000 US dollars. Here's one higher-end example. There are houses here available in all price ranges, and this shows some of the upper range, beautifully renovated, modern amenities, great access roads, and sometimes spectacular views. This one is listed at about 780,000 US dollars. And with those examples in mind, here's why my property in particular fell below the prices in this area significantly. This place sat mostly empty for about 4 years before I bought it. There was a caretaker, but it wasn't really lived in, and it fell into some disrepair. Because of that, it was very hard to sell, and the owners lowered the price several times over the years. By the time I came to see it, it was already listed far below the going prices here for a property with some acreage. Like I said before, those can start at around $200,000. It was already listed below the current prices in the area, and because of the disrepair and the work I'd have to do, and plenty of unknowns because I couldn't get my questions answered about the place, I offered even a bit less and the sellers accepted. This is the only reason I could have afforded a property with land, really. If it had been move-in ready or priced like the others, it simply wouldn't have been possible for me. I'm aware that being here is a privilege and I don't take it lightly. I try to live in a way that contributes more than I take because being welcomed in this community makes me grateful every single day. If the house hadn't been this neglected, this imperfect, and this overlooked, I never could have bought it. I was just in the right place at the right time. Healthcare is another big question that people often ask about, and honestly, even after decades as a nurse, I'm kind of clueless when it comes to medical finances, but this is how it works for me. I pay for catastrophic health insurance in case something ever went wrong. I've got a high deductible and I hope never to have to use it, but I have it in case, I break my leg or I need a surgery or I need to be evacuated or whatever. I'm currently paying about $1,600 for that per year. And like I said, I hope I never have to use it. A lot of people here do what's called self-insure, and they put money away every month in case they need a procedure or have an accident. And I'm considering doing the same because things are so much more affordable here when it comes to healthcare. For instance, if you want to go in and see a doctor for like a consultation, it's most of the time way less than $20 for that. If you need x-rays or blood tests, it could be $20 up to maybe $80, depending on what you need. And surgeries, even with the surgeon, obviously, and a full surgical team and anesthesia, can be way less than they are in the United States. For example, a hernia repair surgery here can be under $3,000, and that's including everything. And that's according to someone who got that procedure done here recently. And if you want a deeper breakdown of different types of insurance and what companies people actually use here, I've put a lot more information into my new guide, Moving to Mexico with Confidence. So if that interests you, see the notes below this video for a link. Now, I'm not saying that healthcare is cheap for everyone, nor is it perfect anywhere. Just that, in my experience, costs are reasonable enough here that many people self-insure, especially for routine and non-life-threatening care. Though I've only seen a doctor here in this country once, for me it's been really accessible, affordable, and easy, and the doctor was really cool too. As I understand it, if you hold a legal residence permit, either temporary or permanent, in Mexico, you are eligible to register with the country's public health care. According to one guide I read, foreigners holding a temporary or permanent residency can register for a low annual fee. Having a tourist status only, for example, if you come in on a tourist visa, doesn't usually give you full access to register for the Social Security or IMSS programs. Something else I want to mention because it came up recently in a comment is the question of foreigners using Mexico's public healthcare system. And it's a fair question. The system here is already stretched and it exists primarily for Mexican families, not for people like me arriving from another country. I haven't signed up for IMSS myself, so everything I'm saying here is based on research I've done, not personal experience. Policies change and the details can vary by state, so if you're planning a move, it's worth checking the current requirements where you'll be living. I don't know what each individual should do, but I think it's important to understand how the system works. Even when eligible as a resident, the service level, wait times, and hospital conditions may be more limited compared to private health care. For example, you may face overcrowded hospitals and long wait times. There may be fees for signing up for these programs. One guide noted fees for foreigners with residency run from 20,000 to 5,500 pesos per year in the past. Like I said, I haven't attempted to sign up for any public health care system. It's just research I've been looking into online. It's wise to plan for which level of care, public versus private, you'll use, budget for any associated costs and fees, and investigate what hospitals and clinics are local to your region of Mexico. So that's healthcare. For me, it's been reasonable, affordable, and really accessible, surprisingly inexpensive. Now let's look at what's surprisingly cheap here and what is absolutely not. You always hear people say life in Mexico is so much less expensive, and it is. But it's not in a cut your corners bargain basement kind of way. It's just that it doesn't feel like every time you leave your house, there's a financial chokehold on you, like there is like in California last time I visited. And part of why things are less expensive here is simply because wages are lower. People get paid dramatically less for the same work here in Mexico, and local prices reflect what the community can realistically afford to pay. So yes, life can be more affordable, but it's not because Mexico is cheap. It's because people are making less here. Economics are different, and normal people live within those realities every day. So these are some of the things that are delightfully less expensive here in Mexico. And when I'm walking through a Mexican mercado, sometimes I wonder, why was I working 12-hour shifts at the hospital before? And then I remember my mortgage. The basics of life, vegetables, fruit, tortillas, beans, eggs, chicken, cost far less than in the US. You can walk out of a mercado with a bag overflowing with produce for the price of 2 avocados at Whole Foods in the United States. Hiring someone for cleaning or gardening work is common and affordable. Housekeepers, gardeners, handymen cost dramatically less, and the work is often excellent. A full day of help for the cost of half an hour in the United States. $25 to $35 a day. Obviously, you don't bargain or try to talk anyone down. You hire someone, pay the local going rate, and you support the local economy. Like I said, medical care is much more affordable here. Doctor's visits for $15 to $30, x-rays for $20 to $60, blood work for a fraction of the US prices. Even private specialists are very accessible. And many medications, antibiotics, thyroid meds, blood pressure meds, pain meds are cheaper with no insurance involved. It depends on where you land in Mexico, but in many of the interior states, like where I live, you can still buy a house with a yard or maybe even some land for the price of a parking space in California. I've heard people online recently say that Mexico is as expensive as the United States, and I think they must be talking about places like Puerto Vallarta or Cabo. And if you compare a place like that to, let's say, Kansas, it's true, you might find some similar prices. But there are many places untouched in Mexico by tourism, and those places are more suited to the regular lives of Mexicanos. There are many very rich people in Mexico of all nationalities, and the key to finding affordable living is to stay away from those people. Masons, welders, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, all affordable and usually highly skilled. If you're renovating a house or fixing up a casita like me, this makes a massive difference. Buses, colectivos, local taxis, all cheaper than in any city in the US. Even Uber is usually 30 to 50% less than in the States. I think the price of a ride in a combi, the shared minibuses that are very frequent here, recently went up to 14 pesos, which is less than $1. Pottery, wood furniture, textiles, copper, woven baskets, artisan gifts, all more affordable and handmade. These lovely coffee cups were about $2 each at the mercado. Prepaid or monthly, phone and data plans are significantly cheaper. Unlimited social media and data for a small fraction of US prices. I remember paying around $70 a month for Verizon in the States. Here, I pay about $10. Street tacos, small family restaurants, the fondas at the mercado, all affordable and delicious. You can eat out weekly here without blowing your budget. And sometimes a little local fondita is better than anything fancy. I recently went out for lunch and it was about $4, and that was with a beer. Higher priced and very nice restaurants are many here too, but cost less than their equivalents in the northern countries. There are a few things in Mexico that can be more expensive. If it didn't grow here, swim here, or doesn't have a grandmother in Jalisco making it by hand, it might be more expensive. Things like spaghetti sauce, Greek yogurt, maple syrup, peanut butter, some of the little comfort foods you think you're not attached to until they're 2 or 3 times the normal price. Basically, if it's imported and it needs transportation, it's more expensive. Phones, laptops, cameras, iPads, TVs, washer and dryers. Yep, they can all typically be 10 to 30% more. Buying Apple products is especially painful here. Cars retain their value longer in Mexico because they fix things here. Plus, importation is complicated and expensive. A 10-year-old Toyota here might cost the same as a 4 or 5-year-old model in the US. It all depends on if they make it here. Beautiful wood furniture, affordable and local. The giant fridge you have your eye on, more expensive. Okay, so that's the big picture about the cost of living here. In a typical month here, my life costs an average of about $850. I spend about $30 on household gas, $10 a month on electric, $25 for internet, $50 on the dogs more or less, and maybe $40 a month for gas for my car. Now that I don't have a house payment or rent, life here is pretty inexpensive. That's not including things like annual property tax, car repairs, or big household fixes, which can be unpredictable. Your number might be lower or higher. Every region and every lifestyle is different. I tend to be a homebody and not much of a shopper, so that keeps my expenses low. A big chunk of my monthly budget right now goes to 𝐲𝐫𝐸 and others helping me get this place in working order.
I cleaned out this junk drawer because they were eating some microwave popcorn in here, and then 3 days later, I see all this blue sawdust, and it's this. They want to eat a sponge? Even got into the dog's rawhide bones. Gotta put that in the refrigerator like everything else.
I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. And if I don't see you again until January, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Got out.
I'm not a big fan of Christmas carols, but I do have one favorite. Oh, Holy Night. It's so majestic and beautiful. It always makes me want to move like a ballerina, which brings me to this.